There is a fundamental difference in interest of the seller of general traditional lighting systems and the need of a long-term application in a special lighting application. A lot of traditional light sources are designed to fail in a specific lifetime to maximize the profits of the light source manufacturer. Hello, I'm Florian Heike, CEO of Celinius Company Limited, and we have been supporting professional power electronics for lighting and audio systems for 25 years out of Taiwan. And today I would like to come up with some answers to questions which were asked on LinkedIn. I really cannot type elaborate articles for each of the questions, so I decided to answer them here in this video. So one question that was asked was, how do you optimize your ESD simulation workflow and reduce the computational cost and time? So when it comes to ESD, yes, there are simulation tools, but I typically recommend people to utilize, I would say, common industry methods to address them. So when it comes to ESD, you separate them between two items. One is through air, meaning discharge, for instance, by people walking over the carpet and discharging to the housing. For that type of discharge, you have to manage the grounding of your metal enclosure in your application. And when it comes to the ESD that comes over the power lines, you have to consider the input filter, the first initial EMI stage, with MOV components that are adequately designed in accordance with the standards, and then take a little bit of a higher rating in the initial voltage rating for the rectifiers that are the first semiconductors that are in contact with the lines. Another question that I received were, how do you budget and plan the time and cost of UL certification for electronics? And I had to smile when I saw that question, because over the past 20 years, I had to deal with several UL certifications. And frankly speaking, it's a bit of luck, because you are very much depending on the engineer on the other side of the line. Meaning from the UL side, there are very good and accommodating engineers, but there are also the other ones. And my rule of thumb recommendation for UL certification costs is that you ask for an offer from UL, and then you multiply that by a factor of 2, because you have to prepare a lot of material on your side, and that is cost that you have to take. Sometimes you're lucky and you get it done in less than a few months, but it can also take a year depending on the complexity and also on the question how much material that you may have used on a prior certification you can reuse. Another question that came up was, what skill set can you offer the engineering team, i.e. firefighter? I have to say, of course, as every engineer, you have strengths and weaknesses. And yes, when it comes to manufacturing, troubleshooting, I think we do have quite some experience to address, and there we are better. When it comes to the design space, if it's related to matters we have done before, especially in power electronics, on traditional circuit architectures, yes, I think we can help, especially when it comes to the particular component selection. But when it comes to, and often that happens, when the design has already been fallen into a hole because something has been completely misconsidered, then sometimes you have to take a huge step backwards. So it's not a black and white answer. Another question to come up here was, how easy is it to modify lighting in the future, and where might possibly be more innovation created in the future? And I think that's a very good question. I think the major innovation over the past 10-15 years was driven by the advancement of the LED technology. LEDs have become more efficient. They have offered better spectrums, more useful spectrums. So we need less power. Less power needs really create less heat, and therefore we can design smaller products in a better form factor, or brighter products in the same form factor. So yes, the continuous involvement of the LED technology will enable applications which are not yet or not as well met as right now. Another question, are there control systems or software that is needed to manage special lighting? I would reframe it. Instead of asking for the control systems or software, there are standards which have been established. And I would like to refer to, for instance, a very old standard that's used in disco lighting and in is DMX, and it's still there today. Then we have the DALI lighting system to control the brightness in a logarithmic way in public installations, and still used today. And now we have wireless standards like connected lighting, Zigbee, that try to get involved, but the complexity often outweighs the value, so I have to be careful. From my recommendation that I would like to give to people that are in a larger space, I recommend you to be careful with wireless transmissions, because there are always interference with other systems that you cannot fully control. When it comes to wired solutions, I think you're quite safe. Another question that came up, considering both initial purchase and long-term maintenance, are there any difference between special lighting systems and traditional lighting options? Oh yes, and I talked about this with Michael before in another episode. You have to understand that there is a fundamental difference in interest of the seller of general traditional lighting systems and the need of a long-term application in a special lighting application. I don't want to be mean, but a lot of traditional light sources are designed to fail in a specific lifetime to maximize the profits of the light source manufacturer. And you have to be aware of this. And that's why when you come to special lighting, it's really worthwhile to really understand what lifetime do you expect in the application that you're targeting. Another question that has been given, have you assisted the resilience of your supply chain area? Are you concerned that your supply chain may be disrupted? Well, we all experienced the pandemic. I have spent the pandemic in Asia. Our travel was highly restricted. A lot of challenges right now we are facing are these terrorists in Yemen that are shooting at the container ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, making the supply chain longer. I do not believe the world can really absorb a full cutout of either Taiwan, Korea, or China out of the supply chain, because we're just so intertwined. But yes, supply chain costs are very volatile, transit times can be longer, and you have to prepare for this. So it's worthwhile, depending on your business model, to do not rely on just in time to be working perfectly all the time. That would be, I call it almost suicidal. Another question that was coming up, what do you think the most annoying part of being a power engineer? Oh, that's a funny question. But I would say, be ready to be an underappreciated person. Because everybody expects your power supply to work perfectly, and when it doesn't, it's your fault. So be ready for the blame. But the good news is you'll still be needed. Yeah. So if you have more questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment underneath of the video, or we are happy to answer them again. And yeah, I look forward to your input. Thank you very much and have a nice day.